Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Banter Saga, our gaming podcast. I'm David Marino, and I have with me Tim Harris.
Woo!
Woo!
Exciting.
And today's going to be kind of a normal format episode. We started off with a special, an oversized special, but we're going to do something a little more normal. Starting off, we will make corrections, some horrible errors that we had in our last episode.
Oh my god, did we have horrible errors?
We did not.
Oh, good.
We would normally start with that, but there has been nothing brought to my attention from the last episode.
Fantastic. I didn't notice anything. I was like, I don't remember there being issues, but maybe.
No. But yeah, if anybody listening finds something that we were incorrect about, pop it down in the comments, and we will fix it for next time.
That's right.
So let's start off with Tim. What are you playing currently?
Me? Well, I just finished playing the first 3 The Room games, and I'm in absolute love, and I'm planning on starting the 4th one.
They are very good.
Yes.
Very good.
If you are a fan of puzzle games at all, cannot recommend enough. They are absolutely fantastically made. Not the hardest games in the world. The 3rd one definitely, they definitely like went above and beyond for the 3rd one. There's some big puzzles in that one, but especially the overarching puzzles, real good. So like if you are a puzzle game person and you have not played The Room, go play The Room, all of them.
Yeah, that's definitely something that that seems to be the trajectory for the series, especially with VR and 4. Not so much VR. VR is a little more self-contained, but it's big. You're going to a lot of places before you're really able to solve a particular puzzle.
Yeah, like the first 2 games are pretty much, what you see is what you get, and then like the 3rd one is just like, holy fuck, it gets so much bigger. What are you playing, David?
Right now, I am working through both. I've started both of them, but I'm working through Super Mario 3D World and the Bowser's Fury add-on when it got released on Switch.
Oh, that DLC.
It's not DLC. It's weird. It feels like it almost feels like a preview, like a proof of concept for the next Mario game.
Okay.
Because it's open world, but it isn't open world like the previous, like Super Mario Sunshine or even Mario 64, where there might be a hub, but then you kind of like do a level and come back to the hub.
Okay.
It's all there are courses. You start a course, but there's no hub. You can kind of just freely move between each of the course areas in the overworld.
Yeah, I've not played that one, but it seems pretty good.
It is really good.
Okay.
Super Mario 3D World is really, really good. And then this Bowser's Fury, if either it gets expanded into a full game or just they use these ideas in the next Mario game, maybe like an Odyssey 2.
Okay.
That's going to be pretty good, unless they manage to screw it up somehow. Making a full release.
Yeah, I haven't felt the need to buy a Mario game since Mario Maker came out, because I can just play Mario infinitely that way, and it's just so good. But like, obviously Odyssey is like a step beyond.
Yeah, I mean that's full environments instead of just like a side scroller.
Right.
Odyssey was pretty good too. If you haven't played that yet,
I have not
Switch.
played it
Odyssey
yet.
Was pretty good.
Yeah, it looks really good. I kind of want to get it. I'm not gonna lie. I plan to.
Okay, well, moving into the main topic of the episode today. Last time we went through and just kind of gave our thoughts about all of the Dread X collections. You can go take a look at that episode if you found this one first. But this time, what Tim and I are going to do are reach into our gaming histories a little bit and give you just a little idea about what type of games we like and how they've impacted us as gaming individuals. Tim has asked that I go first.
That's right. I've decided David should go first because I don't know the direction he's going to go with this. And then while he's talking, I'm going to mentally decide whether I need to change everything I plan to talk about.
We will alternate after each game. So I'll talk a little bit about a game from my past, and then Tim will go and we'll alternate back and forth. We'll probably get through about 3 of these. Maybe a little bit less. We'll see how we do with these ones. So, Tim, let me set the stage for you first.
Okay.
The year is 2009.
It's insane.
Ghostbusters, the video game, has just come out.
Okay.
And my dinky ass laptop can't play it. It's a sad day. So I'm looking into getting one of the new, at the time, current generation consoles, a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360.
Right.
Now I don't really have skin in the console game at this point. Xbox is cheaper, but you're always talking about PlayStation, so I got those two things going on in my head.
Right. I'm a PlayStation fanboy, by the way.
Yes. Speaking of which, on your brand new PlayStation 3, you have Rock Band.
Yes.
And we all love those music games.
Oh, absolutely.
So we go over to Tim's house to play Rock Band. But he has this other game. This wonderful little launch title on the PlayStation 3 that single-handedly convinced me to get into that market. Do you remember what it was, Tim?
Was it LittleBigPlanet?
It was absolutely LittleBigPlanet.
Yeah, that's a great fucking game.
Oh my god. Not only, like, the first one's great, especially as, like, a first run, just kind of all of the concepts in there. The second one is far and away a better game. That is just phenomenal. Everything that they were able to do with the level creator tools and all of the stuff they added. But just with the first game, the amount of just imagination that goes into not only playing the levels that come on the disc is kind of like a story mode. It's a campaign, but the only reason it exists is to like show you what the level creator can do,
right,
and get items for you to use in the level creator. But just the feeling that it cultivates as you're playing through this with the narrator and the cute little sack boys and all of the different curators that you meet as you travel through.
There was definitely nothing like that at the time, at all.
Even to this day, even with Media Molecule's next project, Dreams, like Dreams is completely open-ended. You can do anything with this, but it doesn't even come close to creating that, like, just that little spark that LittleBigPlanet had to just set you off on your way and create things in this little crafty universe.
Don't even get me started on the user-created content for that fucking game, though. Oh my god.
Yeah, they had a lot of great stuff, too. And the fact that with the subsequent sequels, both 2 and 3, it was all backwards compatible. You could just hop into those servers and go play something you made in the first game.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job with that.
Funnily enough, too, even the handheld versions, well, the PSP version, not so much. I mean, it's a fun little platformer, but the PlayStation Vita version of LittleBigPlanet is completely fully featured. Anything you could make in the PlayStation 3 versions, you could technically transfer over to the Vita. I don't think they were completely cross-compatible. I think you actually had to like remake your stuff on the platform, but it was capable of doing it, which was insane.
I never got to play that one because my PlayStation Vita just disappeared. Still to this day, I have no idea what the fuck happened to it.
No idea. Gone.
Pretty sure someone sold it for drug money. Like 90% sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Probably wouldn't get much for it these days.
Probably not these days.
Back when it was fresh, though. Yeah, back when it was fresh. But no, I think definitely that game changed how I think about user-created content.
Okay.
Like most of the time with mods, or even if a game like inside of itself allows user-created content, like the Portal map creator, the little perpetual testing initiative thing they did. You know, most of the stuff is not very good. And that's just how it is with user-created. You know, you get some great stuff uploaded to the workshop, but if you dive into that new section, most of it's just not going to be very good.
Yeah.
But with LittleBigPlanet, even if it's not good, even if it's just some like achievement farming level to buff your stats, there's something about the way it looks and how Media Molecule incorporated all of these little like everything looks like it's made out of craft materials. It's very charming, and I love the feeling that game just has.
Yeah, that's the perfect thing about it. Like, you know, you don't really get anything like that, and the fact that it has just its own aesthetic is amazing. And like, it has a completely different feel to any other game you're ever gonna play, really. I mean, even the second one, really. I think it feels different than the first one.
It does, because the first one, it's pretty much just side-scrolling. You can make like side-scrolling platforming levels, and they're not very cohesive. It's just stuff. Like, they might be themed to the area, or you can take a bunch of stuff and make it look like it goes together, but it doesn't. It's not a place,
right?
That you can't like make that. But yeah, the second game, you can make whole worlds, and they can be linked together, and you can go from like an exterior to an interior to like a vehicle scene to you can make cut scenes in that game,
which is awesome.
It's so cool. There, you can go on, if you go on to the servers and just look for content that people have made, there's things people have made that are, it's not interactive at all. It's basically just a movie, you know, a little 5-minute thing that somebody threw together with these tools that you can just watch. And it's just, I wish, I don't know if they made another one, because the third one wasn't made by Media Molecule, and it was still pretty good. It like didn't have the same feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish like they could have added a DLC story, some extra DLC stories to 2, because it had a few, but just getting some more would have been wonderful. All right, so Tim,
yes,
take me back.
All right,
take me back to this game.
Oh, I'm debating which one I should start with here. I think we'll go back to the very, very distant past, because like my history with gaming starts long before David's does. Before David's.
I'm very much a newcomer. I didn't really even start playing stuff till PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I've been playing since the Commodore. Don't get me wrong, I was very young and had no idea what I was doing, but I have been playing games since the Commodore existed. So I've had experience with Atari, Commodore, like even old fucking word processor games I've played. Like everything. But I think the game that, for me personally, that like really got me started, like, you know, like this is something that I want to definitely spend time doing, is not the first Legend of Zelda, and not the second, but A Link to the Past.
Oh, the was SNES, right?
Yeah, I think, God,
Super Nintendo.
I'm pretty sure it was originally on NES. I'm more familiar with the Super Nintendo version, but I'm like 90% certain that I played it on NES, kind of like Super Mario Bros. 3. Right?
We'll have to see.
Hold on. I'll Google while I'm talking. But the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, right? So everyone's familiar with the Legend of Zelda in some way or another. If you play games, you're familiar with these games. There has never been and will never be a Legend of Zelda game that is as good as A Link to the Past. And I'm planting my flag right fucking here. That game is goddamn amazing. What's it?
Any of the Legend of Zelda games.
Yeah, none of those games hold a fucking candle to A Link to the
Even
Past.
say Ocarina of Time.
I don't give a fuck about Ocarina of Time. All right?
The fan favorite.
The fan favorite, yes. I think the Ocarina of Time is a very good game, but I think the Ocarina of Time is incredibly overrated, and I actually think Majora's Mask is better than Ocarina of Time. It's a little more annoying.
You're not the first person I've heard say that.
Yeah, I think it's a much better game, in my personal opinion. It has some bad mechanics, yes, it does, but they're really cool. So,
Also,
take it how you will.
It was Super Nintendo only.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, right? So the first game really doesn't have much going on for story. It's an old NES game. I think not 86 maybe, something like that, or maybe this one's 86. I don't know. Or no, I think this one's 91. Whatever. Let's not get hung up on years right now. So you talk about the original Legend of Zelda. There's not really a story. There's plenty of things to do and collect and like beat up, and that's cool. And there's all kinds of hidden secrets and blah blah blah. Legend of Zelda 2 comes along, completely different experience because it's like a side scroller. Not a bad game in any way, shape, or form. Just not what people wanted. If you haven't played The Legend of Zelda Part 2, I would advise it because it's a pretty good game. It's not anywhere near as hard as people make it out to be. But then you come to 3. And it takes everything you love about the first game and then melds in the more story-centric elements of Part 2, and we now have the perfect marriage of what a Zelda game should be. It's got an amazing story that's completely fleshed out from beginning to end. It's so perfectly fucking paced. Don't get me wrong, you can break the shit out of the game if you know how to play it. You can absolutely sequence break the fuck out of the game. You shouldn't, in my opinion. You should play it like how it's meant to be. But like, the pacing of the story is phenomenal. There are so many secrets to find in that game. Like, if you go poke around in any corner of that game and you've never played it before, you're gonna find something. Because there's always something to explore and always something to find. And like, there's just so many different things you can do to find these things, because like the item interactions, it's incredible. I cannot gush enough about this game. Oh my god. But The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is still at the #1 on my favorite games. Most people would think that's Final Fantasy VII. Incorrect. I believe that A Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is the greatest game ever made, and it is the reason that I think I have stuck with it as hard as I have, because that game just showed me what games can do. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
So how far back? I mean, obviously, what's it say? 1992 it came out, but how far back do you go with that game? Are you right there with it?
God, I
suppose you really couldn't be.
I think I was 5 when I first played it.
I'd be close then.
Yeah.
You'd be close.
Because I had a Sega Genesis, and don't get me wrong, I fucking kicked the shit out of some Sonic the Hedgehog and some Mario Brothers, all that stuff, all the classics. Donkey Kong, fuck yeah, But The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, not only did I play that by myself constantly, but me and my cousin were like obsessed with that game. I don't think I actually beat that game until I was like 9 years old, because I had, I was a young kid, I didn't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just walking around, pressing things, seeing what happens, and it's kind of hard when you're a child who doesn't know what the fuck you're doing to like figure out a more expansive, complicated game like that. But yeah, I think I was probably like 8 or 9 when we first beat that game, because we got stuck at the when you first get into the Dark World, there's this fucking monkey that you have to pay money to in order to get into the first dungeon. We didn't know that. And this little motherfucker's just like, pay me 100 rupees, and we're like, fuck you. No, we're not giving you shit. And so we spent like a year. Because remember, this is before the internet was like really a thing. Okay? This is before it was commonplace. So like, this is back in the day. So like, all these guides and stuff weren't really available unless you like went to Nintendo Power and stuff like that. So just figuring out stuff like that. And, like, we never even knew you could get the monkey back because we just left and assumed we went to the wrong place. And then we finally stumbled across it, like, a year later. We were like, oh my god. Actually, I think it was my cousin who was the one who told us. Our much older cousin. Which is how you got a lot of your gaming information back in the day, you know? Through word of mouth.
Yeah, older siblings or older family members.
Yeah, you know? The internet wasn't there to tell you, oh, go here. It didn't happen like that. Okay. But yes, that game, oh my god. I cannot sing its praises enough. And, like, that's probably why I still have such a, like, you know, high affinity for not just retro stuff, but, like, adventure games in general. Because, like, that was my first big adventure game.
And it stuck with you all that time?
Mm-hmm. I still go back and play it usually once a year. It's so good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Tim, as you know, I am not the biggest fan of turn-based RPGs.
Yes.
So, surprise, surprise, that a turn-based RPG would appear on my list.
I am absolutely shocked, actually. What the fuck?
It is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban for the Game Boy Advance.
Is that the one where it's, like, card-based?
You can use cards. It's not card-based. They have, like, extra stuff you can do.
Okay.
You don't need to use the cards. In fact, I usually don't.
Okay. I've never played this game. I've only, like, seen snippets here and there.
For one, it was one of the first games that I got to play on, like, my own system, which was the Game Boy Advance. It wasn't mine. It was my sister's. We each got a Game Boy for Christmas and one game.
Okay.
She got Harry Potter, but when she was done with it, I borrowed it and played through it, and then I played through it again, and then I played through it again. And what's great about it is you can infinitely new game plus it.
Okay.
So once you get to the end, and you have all your spells and your level up, you can just restart the game with all of that stuff you just got and just keep leveling it up.
Okay, that's pretty badass. I've always been a big fan of New Game Plus systems.
Each of the spells you can level, not each of them, but most of the spells have like a second and third form that can be more and more powerful. You have the different cards that you can find. You can collect and make sets to do like special magic attacks. It has like a Pokedex kind of system where you like scan a monster and then you get to know its weaknesses and what it's weak against and everything.
That's badass.
And it is badass. And one of the things I really appreciate about it is on the overworld, they display all of the monster encounters. And it's not like, you go into a cave in Pokemon or like a grass path where a random encounter could occur there. Everywhere throughout the game, it's just you can walk around all these monsters roaming around if you want. Like if you want to just get someone real quick, you just walk around everything and go to where you're going.
Right.
And if you don't, like the monsters can be in parties, obviously, and I'm not exactly sure how they choose which one to display because there'll only be one monster for the encounter.
That's the way it usually is in those games. Like even Saga Frontier. Let's throw another oldie bitty goodie out there. You had the option to fight things or dodge them, and it was always one thing on the screen, but 90% of the time it would be a party of monsters that are just kind of randomly thrown together with what's in the region.
But if you didn't scan or investigate any of the monsters that were in that party, it would just be a little blue splotch that you had to walk around. So not only could you avoid battles altogether, but the game would let you know if a battle had a monster that you needed to scan.
Okay,
without even having to
a great idea.
Go into the battle.
Yeah.
It was I loved it. It's just that was one of the things that like really starting my gaming journey when I was 13 or whatever, when I got my when I got a Game Boy Advance. It wasn't that I like completely disliked turn-based RPGs. It was just all of the little things that seem to be a part of turn-based RPGs didn't have to be. And it felt like Prisoner of Azkaban was kind of made with me in mind. Where they're like,
Okay,
hey,
fair enough.
Here's all this stuff that is kind of irritating about turn-based RPGs. Let's fix it a little bit and make the game slightly better.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not going to say that they're perfect, and we all know that one of my games is in fact turn-based RPG. But I don't mind. I like when they switch up the formula a little bit and give me a little something different to work with. It's kind of nice.
And it also had branching paths. So like on one playthrough, let's say you get to an area and you team up with Hermione, but on your second playthrough, you can choose to go with Ron, and you'll get different items or meet different monsters in
That's pretty badass.
that thing. It was. And like I played it enough. I don't remember how many times because it didn't keep track of like how many loops you did, but I played it enough to get everything completely maxed. Max level 100, max spell power. I had 999 on all the trading card abilities. I played it so much that if I used a trading card ability, the counter wouldn't actually go down. It would stay at 9. It just could only display 9, but I had way more than that in the stack.
This is why your sister is not a lifelong gamer, because you stole her game.
I stole her game and she never played it. No, she still has them now.
Okay.
When she left, she took them with her, so she has that cartridge. But yeah, I played the hell out of that game. It was so
may
good.
I ask real quick, what game did you get?
I got Jurassic Park 3 Island Attack.
Okay, I see.
Which
I see
was
why you preferred Harry Potter.
Of the Jurassic Park 3 trilogy games. One was a park builder, the other one was the DNA Factor. We'll talk about that one sometime.
Your favorite.
Island Attack wasn't 1-to-1, but it was pretty much the events of the movie.
Okay.
So it was like the movie game as opposed to just a Jurassic Park game.
Okay. I was curious because I was like, oh, so you stole her game and ended up loving games, but the game you got, not so much.
No, don't get me wrong, I love Island Attack.
Okay.
I can play that game still without needing to look up anything. I just run through it. It's so good.
Oh, man. All right. It sounds like I'm about to take off on game number 2.
Yes.
Which is, hilariously enough, a game that I also can steamroll through without having to look anything up, ever. And I know where literally every goddamn thing in this game is now, after like my 18th playthrough this year. I did manage to find one thing I had never seen before in this game. And this game, of course, maybe I should introduce it like David introduced his first one. Take you back to the year 1997. Okay, so I had my PlayStation. My PlayStation 1. I was pretty hooked, I had some interesting games. There's some good stuff out there. I think I actually... No, okay, so yeah. I think, there was a shitty tank game that I loved, and I also had Armored Core, which I still...
Armored Core.
You know Armored Core, because Armored Core 3
familiar.
is the shit. But this game, so my gaming journey up to this point was pretty fucking extensive, don't get me wrong. But then comes along a little game you might know called Final Fantasy VII. And this game just... So I flipped this boy on because I was like, alright, I didn't even ask for this game, by the way. My parents got me this game. Okay? I didn't even ask
But
for it.
you had played at least a few of the other ones, right?
I had, because...
So you were familiar with Final Fantasy.
I was familiar with the idea of it, but don't, keep this in mind, I was very, very young, so, those weren't games that I was like, oh man, I'm gonna play these all day, it was like Sonic the Hedgehog and Zelda, because Final Fantasy is a much more complicated game. Okay?
Right.
So I was familiar with, technically 6, and what was the other one that got released in the US? I think it was 5, so 1, 2, and 3, as they call it. I was familiar, but I was not like necessarily a fan of those games because I was young and I didn't want to sit there and read. Ugh, that's lame, right? I always liked the little fights, but that was about the extent. I never beat one of those games up until Final Fantasy VII. Let me just tell you, the moment that I flipped this fucking game on, right? You get through the little menu and like the music's neat and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. All right, yeah, that's cool. And then you open up the menu and there's just this sword there. It's the most basic ass menu of all time. It's just black with some light and a sword. And here's, new game or continue. Can't continue if you never played the game, right? So you click that new game button and your fucking mind is immediately blown. Oh my god. Like, I had never seen anything like this before. Like, that opening cutscene, everything about it was just absolutely fucking mind-blowing. And, like, I was immediately hooked. Like, there was no turning this fucking game off for me. Like, that was my game now, because, like, just that opening cutscene, like, the music's amazing, all the visuals at the time, that shit was state of the art. Like, there was nothing even fucking close, okay?
Yeah.
It was amazing. And, like, that blew my fucking mind. And, like, the game itself just looked incredible all the way through. And, like, today, it's a little bit ugly to look at these days, but I still play it constantly. But,
Slightly
like,
blocky.
It's extremely blocky. Like, you can absolutely count the pixels. You're 100% correct. But I have never, even to this day, had an experience like I had just booting that game up before I even played it. I have never had an experience like that. And, like, I do blame Final Fantasy VII for me being a PlayStation fanboy, because the moment that I played that game, I was like, oh, this is my system now. And, like, I pretty much stopped playing Sega and Nintendo altogether because
damn,
that game changed everything for me. And, like, I immediately after playing that just became a huge fan of RPGs. And, like, that is where my love of RPGs stems from, 100%. Like, I had played RPGs before that, but nothing like this game. And, like, I am 100% on board with saying that is a great stepping off point for anyone. It might not be mind-blowing these days, but, like, the game's still good. But, oh my god. I can't even describe the feels that I got playing through that game. And I don't think, it took me a few years to beat it, because, don't get me wrong, I was still kind of, like, bad at RPGs at the time. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I just, basically whatever the newest thing I got was like, oh, I better hit him with that. And, like, it don't work like that. Okay. Don't get me wrong. If you over level, you can absolutely play it like that. But, like, you need to be able to manipulate status effects and stuff if you want to play the game well. And I was not on that level. So it took me years to just beat Sephiroth. But, like, when I finally did it, oh my god.
Did you just immediately start it back up again?
No, I didn't. I was done. As soon as I beat him, I watched those credits roll, and then I ran around my house telling everyone, I fucking did it! I did it! I beat him! Like, my dad had no idea what I was talking about. My sister's like, oh man, you better go tell Daniel, because that was the guy that lived across the street from us in River Rouge, who also had the game, but he was an adult, so he actually knew what he was doing. And, like, every time I went over there, he'd be playing it, and, like, I'd see some new place I hadn't seen before and be like, what is this? Oh!
Spoilers.
And it was just amazing. I didn't even care at the time. Like, I was just like, oh my god, you're driving a bird thing. How do I do that? When do I get that? And it's like, a Kokomo, all that good stuff. And then I actually saw the Midgar Zalem, the big snake that Sephiroth impales for the first time over there as well. Oh my god. Final Fantasy VII. Even the remake, I have not enjoyed a game as much as I enjoyed the remake in a long time. And it might just be a little bit of nostalgia in there, but they did such a good job with it. And
I say, did they recapture all of those same feels?
They recaptured absolutely everything, and then they changed enough to make all of those moments feel brand fucking new.
Oh,
and
nice.
it was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. It was such a good experience. But Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy as a series, I was gonna cheat a little bit and just put the whole series here because like it has been a huge influence on me. I've beaten every game in the franchise except for 15 and the second two 13 games. And then obviously 11 and 14, but you don't really beat those. Oh my god. It's so good.
Oh, because those are the
MMOs.
online ones.
Yes.
The MMO, right? Yeah.
Yes. And I'm still a bit torn for my third game. But Final Fantasy VII, if honestly, for whatever reason, if you've not played this game, play this game. Just play it. It might be a little expensive to get these days, so just play the remake. It's fine. Good luck. Oh my god.
All right. Well, with keeping with the theme of my very late gaming developments, I have a much more modern game for the last game that really stuck with me.
Okay.
And it's Alan Wake.
Okay.
This was one of those games where I'd kind of heard about it, or like I saw a review on the old game trailers or something when it was on Xbox. And for a long time, I didn't even think about it. It didn't really look that interesting. It was just kind of, oh, I recognize that name. So when it went on sale on Steam for like $2 or something silly like that, when it finally came over, $2? Yeah, I'll buy that game. Holy cow. Just how everything fits together. And it's like, it's not spectacular by any means. Well, I would argue that the story is phenomenal, at least in the way it's presented is phenomenal. But the gameplay is pretty basic. There's not really any puzzles. It's 100% linear. But everything that you do is just super satisfying. Like using the flashlight to burn off the shield on an enemy and then popping him with a couple of shots, and then he explodes into like sparks.
Yeah, that is amazing.
While you're dodging around. Just, like the sound is satisfying, the visuals are satisfying, like everything that you're pressing has an immediate action on screen, and it just feels really good. And then the story conceit where you're a writer in a story that you've already written to try and save your wife from like this evil darkness that lies at the bottom of a lake. And you're going through, and every once in a while you'll come across a page of the story. And sometimes it's about a thing, it's like explaining in more detail a thing that's already happened. Or it's straight up telling you a thing that's going to happen. And then you walk down the path a little bit further and the thing happens. And it's so cool. Because you get like, so the page you're reading is written like a novel. So you get the page, brief little couple of paragraphs of text that's narrated. The main character narrates it. And it reads like a book. So by the time you get to a thing and you just see this event happen, you already understand like what either triggered that or was going on that you couldn't see, and you remember, oh shit, I have to, and sometimes it's a hint. Sometimes the page you pick up is a hint about what you need to do. So like you'll get to an area and there'll be a page and the thing hasn't happened yet. So you go, okay, and you get to that area and the event happens and you think, oh, the page said that I need to go pick this up in order to get through. And then you go pick that up because that's where it was, that it was foretold, because you're playing through the story that's already written. And there's just something about that just clicked. And even though, like I said, it's really, it feels great to play, but it's not like the most involved combat or the most involved puzzles, and it's linear. Just the way that it presents itself is amazing. I fucking love that game.
Yeah, I can second this. I have not beaten that game, but I did play through, like, the first act, we'll say, with David, actually. And I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of that game. I actually need to go beat it. Every little bit that I played was so good. Like, it's a very fresh feeling game. Even today, because, like, it came out a million years ago, but, like, I just played it recently. And the story's amazing. Like, you're not quite seen anything like how this game works. So I 100% back that up. It's very good.
And then, like, the sequel, well, it's not a sequel. The second game that came out was like an arcadey type experience that just focused on the combat. And they did polish up the combat. What little there was, they did polish it up for that arcadey type high score thing. That it's got a little bit of a story mode, but it's like it's not important. And man, I wish Remedy would go back to that world and make Alan Wake 2. Cause
keep sending them emails, be like, listen here, motherfuckers.
I know Quantum Break was a huge disappointment.
It was.
Control's close. Control was close when I finally played through that, and it even, like, the universes are tied together. So there's a Alan Wake DLC in Control.
Interesting.
And it was close, but the stories, like the side missions and the stories in game, are very lackluster. And then all of the really cool things that happen in this facility are all just tucked away into numerous like random pieces of paper and audio logs that you'll pick up. And they're not even like stories. It's like a file sheet. You just read it and like, oh man, that would have been cool to play. It goes in your inventory. It goes in your inventory. There are a couple of very good missions in the game. I just wish there were more of those instead of just like wave shooter side missions or just find the thing and bring it back, fetch quests.
Someday.
I hope. All right, though, Tim.
All right.
Last game.
I was torn because I originally chose 10 games. David told me I should cut it down to 3, which I'm seeing why, because we're already at like the 40-minute mark here. I was torn here on what I wanted to put in here because World of Warcraft has been, like, you know, I've been playing that game since 2000. I want to say 2004. Or is it 2005?
That would have been.
I think
4 would have been release.
Yeah, so I've been playing since 2004 then, like the end of 2004. Not right at the beginning, but right on in there. I have been playing that game.
Were you in before the first expansion?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there.
That's early then.
I was there when it released, basically, but I'm not going to pick that because that's just more RPG talk, even though it is an MMO. That game still sticks with me because I play it every time they release new expansion. I'm back at it, kicking ass, taking names. But I am actually going to not go with that one, and I am going to go with a little ditty called Resident Evil 2. That's right.
Okay.
I've gone with 2.
The original, I'm assuming.
No, Resident Evil 2.
No, I mean the original.
Oh, yeah, the original.
2.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
You have to differentiate now.
It's the original. I want to say it came out in, 1998? 99?
believe, yes.
Maybe 99? It's somewhere in there.
I suppose it would depend on which version, because they had those extra, like, the DualShock version.
Well, it was the first
director's cut or whatever.
It was the original version. But,
Okay.
So I had played Resident Evil 1, don't get me wrong. I'm no pleb. I definitely played through Resident Evil 1. The part where the dogs jump through the window still to this day makes me jump, even though I know it's gonna fucking happen. I have no idea why. It always catches me off guard, but there we are. Resident Evil 2, I think, really kind of took the bar that Resident Evil had set for horror games and then fucking jacked it through the roof. Not only did they like expand heavily on the idea of those games having a story in general, because like the first one has a story, it's a little bit, underwhelming, let's say. They've really fleshed it out in the years since, with all the remakes. There's like 14 remakes, part one. But part two really fleshed out like the story behind what was going on, and then just upped the fucking ante so much compared to the first one. Oh my god, I don't even know where to begin with this one. And then obviously the cutscenes are so much better.
Yeah.
They're so much better than, don't get the first one. The silly ass fucking like live action stuff that they did is amazing. Oh my god. But Resident Evil 2, one of the things I complained about with the Resident Evil 2 remake is that in Resident Evil 1 you have two characters, or Resident Evil 2, the original one, you have two characters, which are both, Leon and Claire, right? But you also have the A and B scenarios. Not only are the A and B scenarios very, very different from each other in those two games, like they don't just overlap constantly like they do with the newer one. They have much more differentiation between the two. Don't get me wrong, there's some overlap, but there's way more differentiation. Not only this, but in the original one, when you're playing, I think it's the B scenarios, if I remember correctly, when you take certain items on one side of a character, those items will not be available to the other character in their B playthrough.
Oh.
It's pretty badass.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's something they absolutely did not do in the new one.
Because, I was going to say, because even, I've never played the original. I've only played the remake.
Yeah.
And even having only played that one, the A and B stories were almost exactly the same. I mean, you kind of broke off a little bit and did a little extra thing every once in a while, but you followed mostly the same path, it felt like.
Yeah, for the most part, it just makes the game more difficult, which it does. And they change around where certain things are, but like, if you take a certain thing on Leon's thing, scenario, let's say, I'm trying to remember what the big switch was. I think it was the valve handle. If you take the valve handle with him, on Claire's playthrough, you have to do something completely different, because it won't be there.
It is possible, though. You don't just, like, screw yourself out of...
No, you can still do everything.
Oh, okay.
But it makes it more complicated because you have to find things in different places. It's very different compared to what they did with the first one. And it's also just a great mechanic in general because it kind of, like, oh, look, they were doing this at the same time. Haha. So it's kind of neat. And then, obviously, like, the battles in that one, like the combat system is a step up. It's big improvement, and like the boss battles are so much cooler. Oh my god. William Birkin is a million times better of like a villain than Wesker is in the first game, because Wesker pretty much does nothing the entire game, and then it's like, oh, it's Wesker at the end, and like he's the bad guy. Whereas in this one, you have a villain, like, the entire time. Yeah, and he just keeps coming back and beating your ass. Yeah, he's like, get out of my fucking sewer, buddy. And you're like, no. Oh, my God. So, like...
That was really cool, too. I don't know how I don't know how they were able to do it in the original on the PlayStation, but in the remake, just how absolutely disgusting he gets. Like, from the first time you see him... all the way up until that final battle, just the progression.
Yeah,
he
gets very, very, very like just monstrous throughout. Obviously it doesn't look as good as it does in the remake, but he definitely takes a lovely turn towards like goop monster, and then like when he's in that dog form. Oh my god, that fight's so cool. That's what I call the form with the one you fight with Claire, It's called dog form. I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to be.
Oh, okay.
The
I
four-legged
don't remember
beast
there being
guy.
a dog.
Yeah, you know.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that one. And then the eyeball goop monster. That's also a thing. Like, they didn't really add anything that you didn't get in the original game, but they took out a couple things I thought were nice between like how the scenarios interacted. But yeah, that game probably sparked my horror game phenomena. Castlevania also plays a role, don't get me wrong. Castlevania, also a great fucking game, also was a contender for this list for me. But Resident Evil, I would probably blame for my love of horror games. Just because they did such a phenomenal job, like, and even though it's not the one I chose, the first game, when them dogs jumped through the window, that has stuck with me for my entire life. Yes, and yeah, just because of those games in general, I think they kind of set the bar for where horror, like, really began. They might not be necessarily setting the bar higher these days, like, they're probably not the best horror games out there, but, like, they're great action horror games, and there's no way to deny that, so.
Cool. Maybe I'll, well, actually, I probably won't. Say maybe I'll give the originals a try sometime, but
He's like, no. I will say,
not really my thing.
if you're not a fan of, like, retro-y stuff, I wouldn't bother, because, like, the remakes, also phenomenal games, and they pretty much have everything you need, so I wouldn't say go back.
I did very much enjoy the remakes.
Oh, they're so good.
They're so good.
Yeah, they're so good. Even, like, people bitch about the 3 remake, and I did what I got 100% of everything in that game done, I think, in 13 hours. So there's a little bit to be angry about there. I won't lie. But the actual, like, game pretty fucking good. They gutted, like, everything from the original, but it's good.
All right. Well, before we close out here on this episode, Tim, why don't you give us a game you're looking forward to playing?
Me? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think right now the game I am looking forward to playing the most is The Room Part 4, because as I said...
There you go.
Yeah,
continuing on.
Oh yeah, it's either that or Loop Hero I was checking out the other day, and that game looks fucking amazing. Oh my god. But probably going to be The Room 4 for me, which, as noted, is a phenomenal puzzle game. I haven't played it yet, but I know it will be.
He feels it in his bones.
Yes. That's legit probably one of my favorite franchises now. The story's so good.
The game I'm looking forward to does not have a release date yet.
Oh?
And it has been in development for 5 years now.
What's that?
Psychonauts 2.
Oh, no. David.
I was able to play Rhombus of Ruin finally. It used to be a PlayStation VR exclusive. It came to PC. So I was able to play that, and I need back in. That game is just so funny. The original game, Rhombus of Ruin, with like pretty much every single original person back on board for the sequel. It's just going to be a laugh riot, and I'm so excited.
Yeah. Psychonauts was one of the only reasons to own an Xbox. It was. And now you don't have to, because it's going to be on PC.
It's on PC.
So, it's a win-win.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening to us again on this episode of Banter Saga. Do all the usual things for us. Choose a thumb, press it, let us know what you thought about this episode in the space below. Do the little, what's the thing that lets them know?
The bell.
No, the other one.
Notifications. Subscribe?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Subscribe to get new episodes. You don't need the bell. I don't know why they keep pushing that.
That's
I
so
just think
you
that's
know
silly.
that when new episodes come online, David.
Just, instead of having YouTube in like your favorites bar or whatever, just favorite your subscription feed, and that way when you go to it, you'll see the new episodes.
I mean, you could do that, but also YouTube doesn't always push your subscriptions. They try to push, the big boys on your subscription list. And then the small boys kind of get drowned out.
I don't want those big boys. You want the small boys, like us.
I will say, usually the small boys are
boys.
where I'm at. So.
But anyway, thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Good day, everyone.